When working in character animation in Adobe Animate, one of the utilities that lets us get a lot of bang for our buck is the LipSync utility. We use LipSyncing in order to save ourselves countless hours of work trying to match the visual changes of a character's face or lip area in order to match sounds. The program allows us to do this by simply doing one click. Now, it's just one click to actually activate the utility, but to actually make it work properly, there's a lot of steps, or not a lot, but some steps. So let's take a look at how this works. I created this short clip, and we're going to try to recreate the actual lip syncing. Let me do a quick test.
Oh man, it's so hot out here it feels like I'm gonna melt. I sure could go for a nice cool glass of water. Meh, I'll have beer instead. Oh.
Alrighty. So that basically is a voiceover that I created, and I created it in a program called Adobe Animate, which is part of the Adobe ecosystem. And you probably, if you have Adobe Animate installed on your machine, you most likely have Adobe Audition, is the name of the program that I used. So you can capture the sound. Now, you don't have to capture it in Audition. You can capture it on any sound utility that you have. The only thing that you need to know is that you want to maintain a high quality of sound. So you want your rate of playback to be fairly high, 256K at least. And you want to make sure that the file format that you save is either WAV form or AIF. Those are the two file formats that I recommend that you work with in order to for this utility to work properly in Adobe Animate. Now, you could try working with MP3, but honestly, I have never had success working with MP3 files to begin with. That's part of the reason why you're seeing what you're seeing, or you're hearing what you're hearing. My intent for this demo was to actually use a quote from Dr. Evil. And try as I might, I couldn't get the file to work because of compression settings on the actual audio. So having downloaded that file from the web, it had already a lot of compression, which, as you probably know by now, compressing audio files loses a lot of bits of information. And our ears are very deceiving, so we can get away with a lot of stuff when you're hearing sounds play through and through. But the reality of the composition of the sound file, you lose a lot of quality when you do that compression. So how does this work? How do we get this done? Well, let me go ahead and create a new file. And I am going to create it by using the same settings that we've been using, 640x480 and then 30 FPS. It's just fine, AS3. I'm going to work with that. I'm going to go ahead and click create. And having the previous movie still open, I'm going to make use of its library to bring in some items into this new movie. So first and foremost, I want to bring in the audio file. So that's the file that I'm going to be using. I think that file was about 13 seconds long, so I'm going to stretch my timeline for audio all the way to 13 seconds. And I'm going to call that layer audio. That's where my audio is going to go. And to put that audio in there, all I got to do is just drag it from the library onto the stage. And you'll notice that I get my audio graph in there, my sound graph, my levels, showing up on the actual track. Now, on the actual layer. Now, I want to create a new layer. I'm going to bring it below just for aesthetics. And I'm going to call this one mouth. And then I'm going to create yet another layer. And that one I'm going to call body or character. That would be the body of my character. Now, let me go ahead and bring in the body of the character, which I believe is one of these under the graphics layer. It's probably this one. So I'll just go ahead and drag that character into my stage on the body layer. And I'm going to stretch it out so that it occupies a little bit more space. And then I'm gonna, on the mouth layer, I am going to drop the mouth clip, or the mouth movie clip, sorry. I didn't mean to distort it that way. So let me go ahead and place it somewhere where it actually makes sense for the thing to go. And let's take a look at that mouth clip really quick, at the movie clip. Let me double click at the graphic. You will notice that under the graphic I have several layers, and they all have different weird names on them. These names is what we call phonemes. Phonemes are basically the smallest unit of sound that you can produce in a language that makes sense. So for example, if I say the word mom, when I say that M sound that is a phoneme. And that is, in any language, we have phonemes. That's the way we make sounds. Now, the counterpart to phonemes, visually speaking, is called a viseme. Now, visemes are the actual shapes that our mouths take. Did I say viseme? Sorry. They're called visemes. Now, visemes, I said, I'm sorry, they are the shape that the character's mouth will take. This is what they use on, it's part of what they use on sign language. So you actually can look at a person's mouth and read what they're saying and make out the sounds that they're making based on the shape of the character's lip area and mouth area. So this is visemes we can take advantage of to place within our characters as we're animating and as they're producing sounds, so that we can actually enhance the way the actual character looks. Now, visemes come in many flavors. And depending on who you're talking to, they all have a different set of visemes that they use for their characters. But in reality, there's around 12 possible shapes that the mouth takes that correspond to all the sounds, to all the phonemes that we use in our language. So let's basically what you're looking at here. These are the sounds. And these correspond to layers that I created in Illustrator before I brought in this file as layers into Animate. And these sounds, basically, I took each one of the names of each layer, and then on the frame that corresponds to that sound, you'll notice that there's a little red flag. That little red flag indicates that there's a name for that particular layer or for that particular frame. So to apply a name to the actual frame, I select the frame. I go to properties, and over here under label, I apply the name of that particular layer. So the way I did it is I had renamed these in Illustrator when I created them. Then I brought them in as layers. Then over here, I simply highlighted the name, Control C to copy, select the frame that I want to rename, go to its label, Control V to paste. And this is a necessary step. This is something you need to do. The reason for that is because when you, let me hit return so that it takes. Now, when you do this, basically each one of the different visemes has its own name. And we want that so that when we go and match visually the sound to the viseme, we are going to say, okay, it will show us the actual label of the frame that you're working on, making your life a lot easier to match one to one. So what does that mean? Well, remember, this is a graphic. So let me go back to scene 1. This is a graphic, so that means there's no playback on that until I tell it to play back. And so you'll notice that this is playing back constantly because it's got all those frames in it. What I want to do is take advantage of that lip syncing utility to make it recognize what sound is playing when, so that it changes the sound to the viseme. Now, to do this, what you want to do is you want to create all the visemes. And when you have that set up, select the layer that you want to lip sync, then go to the lip syncing utility under Frame Picker. So click on that, and you'll notice that this opens up a window that allows you to select what sound goes where. Now, if this is the first time you're doing this, all of these sounds will most likely look like the neutral one. All of the different positions of the mouth will look like the lips will look like the neutral position. And the reason for that is because that is the default setting. The program doesn't know what is what frame is which. And as you probably noticed, my labels do not match the naming convention used by the program here. Like I said, everybody has their own naming convention, and everybody uses different positions of the mouth for their visemes. So now, with that said, what we want to do is we want to click on the ones and say, okay, well, these are the 12 default ones that Animate uses. So with that in mind, let's see which one matches with mine. For the sound in this case, I want to click, and then it shows me my clip with my drawings. And so from there, these are the labels for each one of those frames that I had just showed you a second ago, how to reframe each frame. So it is necessary for you to name the frame. If you do not name the frame, nothing will appear here. So you don't know what that sound is. So now you need to go back and say, okay, which one of these sounds matches that sound, the sound So in this case, this one. Which one matches the sound M? Let's say, for example, that one. Which one which sound matches my sound D, the letter D, the. So I'll go, that's a no. This is a D right here, the. So I'll choose that. So with that, then once you match all of the frames to the sounds from your drawings that you imported from Illustrator, then you'll need to say, okay, I want to look for the sync file that I want to sync this into, and then I'll go ahead and say, okay, audio is the track. If you had more than one audio track over here, it will give you a list. But since we only have one, we only see audio. Then I'll simply click on Done, and this is going to think for just a second, and it's matching each sound to a visual. And you'll notice that it automatically created a whole bunch of keyframes for me, matching frames to the sounds that are playing right above on the file. These frames, they are actually working the exact same way as if we had just created Frame Picker. And as a matter of fact, if I scrub the video, you'll notice that when I select the different frames, basically, let me go to the actual graphic here, select that, and you'll notice that this option here, the Play Single Frame, is selected and is telling it what frame to go to. What that means for you is that once you play it back, let's go ahead and try to play this back really quick. Let's see if it did cover the entirety of my sound. It did. So let's go ahead and play this back.
Oh man, it's so hot out here, it feels like I'm gonna melt.
So if, let's say, for example, I didn't want a sound, or a sound is not matching my visual, I can always go to that specific frame and then say, okay, I want to change that graphic from that frame 7 to another frame if I wanted to pick another frame, for example. So it works in combination of, so it's almost like a step that is helping you do frame picking automatically. It automates the process of frame picking for you based on how it reads the sound. Hence, the need for having a very high quality, clean sound when you bring it into Adobe Animate. And so with that done, literally that's it. All you got to do now is literally export your file. And once you export it, let's test this file and see if it works.
Oh man, it's so hot out here, it feels like I'm gonna melt. I sure could go for a nice, cool glass of water. Meh, I'll have beer instead.
So that worked pretty well, as you can see, and that matches really well. Just for double checking, let's see just a visual of what this timeline looks like versus my previous timeline. And you'll notice that my frames pretty much match exactly. So it works really well when you have clean sound and when you have proper Vicene. When you have the I keep on saying Vicemes, sorry. I just think of Vicene, the thing that you put in your IDI droplets. So it is Vicemes. That's the name of the actual drawings, Vicemes. Now now what you can do with this now is you can do a combination of things. Say, for example, if you notice when I play this back, the character is talking.
It's so hot out here, it feels like I'm gonna melt. I sure could go for a nice, cool glass of water. Meh, I'll have beer instead.
Okay, and so that works really well. If you want the actual body to have more than, let's say, if you wanted things moving or the cat moving, then that's where you would make use of the frame picking option, which is something that we covered on the previous movie. You would go into the body, and then there you would actually create a timeline and work, having the extra frames where the eyes are closed, where the cap is moving, and then through your main timeline, you would be selecting and adding extra frames and choosing from those frames the actual frames that you want through frame picking, as you would over here. So that is how you would combine to create a lot of animation with a lot of pre-production work. So you need to have all of those frames preset, all of the drawings set up, and then choosing as you go, as you're animating, when the character blinks, when the character switches sides, when something moves on the character, and then lip syncing goes on top of everything else to make everything come together.